We'll get a video.
So much. I can't control your writing is gorgeous.
That's what I like. Funny enough, like everybody.
Except for how we look. It was fake.
Did you ever? That was like the last time I ever wrote.
Yeah. I was there.
Was it a bunch of novels?
Like we can do it. I don't know how long I'm going to keep doing this. Are you leaving? So if you just
I wouldn't be able to say it.
kind of get us started and we can get going. No, we'll really get us going. But we're all here to celebrate Bernie Meadows. Bernie was a huge part of not only the theater community, but also our poetry community. And it was pretty special to all of us. So make sure you take a few moments and check out all the pictures. There's a lot of history over there in those.
And additionally, with the photos, please feel free to take your own, but also the photos over there on the counter. If any of them resonate, call out to you. If there's a particular one that you like, please feel free to take it. We do have more because they're digital prints. And thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it, and the family, the family really appreciates it too. I have some family here with me tonight, probably from Colorado. And some more family will be coming. And yeah, if you have anything you'd like to share, please feel free. It's very casual formatting. There's some pieces that I do want to make sure get read tonight, but other than that, please, if you have something, share. I will kick us off with a poem that I had written the night before that my father had been intubated. And it was the first piece of poetry I'd written in about 7 years at that point. And so I sent it to him, and it was the last thing on Facebook Messenger that he had read. And so it's been something that's kind of been fueling my drive to keep healing. So it's called Welcome Back, Dear Self. I would say it's been too long since we've spoken. Too long, the silence has gone unbroken, and yet every time I place pen to page, the flow of consciousness meets me with such patient grace. Tonight, for the first time in quite some time, I only see all the room I have to express. I look at the empty lines ahead and don't worry about the words that fill the space from here to there. Tonight, for the first time in quite some time, I only see all the room I have to express the thoughts in my head. Welcome back, dear friend, dear self. I've kept you far, far too long in the furthest reaches of the tallest shelf. Please forgive me when I'm too harsh. I'm working diligence to let these tendencies go. I know they do not serve me, and I hold no grudge for them, as survival mode isn't easy, nor should we blame ourselves. When we forget to breathe now and then, we shouldn't blame ourselves. So while I will no longer apologize for the gaps of time between entries, or forgetting to stop and simply be, know that from here on, every day I'll keep healing, keep stretching, and keep pushing. Every day I'm the most authentic version of myself, and I'll take nothing short of my own changed behavior and actionable apologies. Thank you.
Go ahead. My books are over there, so yeah. My books are on the other side, so I'm gonna.
So I don't think I've known Bernie as long as most of you did, because I first met him at a poetry night. The first year they did poetry at Heritage Theater in Dewey, and he was always, other than Morris, like the most put together, theatrical, had his together, would get up and, do just phenomenal stuff, and I really loved him. And then we got to know each other more because we frequented the same causes, the LGBTQ and the Black Lives Matter and women's marches. So it was really hard to lose him for our community. I'm Kimberly the Crier, as I was known in Heritage Theater. So this is par for course. My husband is videoing all of this so we can upload it to YouTube. We'll post the links on the page.
The beard, Chris.
The beard. Chris got that up there. He's a listener. He's wonderful at that. And he did a bunch of stuff with Bernie as well, some radio programs and different just kind of theater and voice work and stuff. So anyway, Morris McCorvey could not be here tonight. He started the poetry nights that we did in Dewey, and he wanted me to share. And I may have to wait. No, Bernie is a soul brother of mine. And this is a poem he wrote. I believe it's called Alpha. The first piece he published from prison that he never felt was good until Bernie recited it one night in Dewey at the Heritage Theater. So he wanted me to share that. He thought it was fitting. I have called to you from exile. It's the wind that sings my song. And although I hear no answer, still the lyric waxes strong. For the strength of love is loving, and the quest its own reward. And the pathway to fulfillment is the path we find most hard. Having chanted to the heavens, having in my heart possessed you. I have draped you in the finest weave of poetry and blessed you. From the fountain of my being to the stairways in the sky. Whene'er the breezes whisper love, breathe deeply, it is I. He's still messaging me, so I had to scroll. Morris is sitting here. Why do you need to tell you all these things? So, anyway, I'm going to let somebody else speak for a minute.
Anybody? I have some things to read. I know we have several here that Noah would like to have read if anyone wants to jump up there with theirs.
I know we all hated popcorn in school, but like, if anybody would like to, if somebody picked up one of Tolkien pieces or the Elmore's, perfect. Thank you so much.
This is the famous poll. We need the suspension of disbelief. The poll is here to enjoy theater in this space. Yes, we are Jason and Joni Elmore, and we've had the pleasure of working with Bernie on so many projects here at Theater Bartlesville and other places. Bernie was one of my favorite people. I thought we all should be more like Bernie. He was the guy that would be painting set pieces when we would walk in, grousing about the rehearsal times. And he'd be smeared with paint and be happy as a clam. Whatever it was, you need something done, he would do it. He'd grab furniture, he'd grab flats, he'd stay late, he'd come early, and never a martyr, but just happy to be part of the process, happy to be connected with people. Whenever I would see Bernie in the community, which was often, I'd set aside some time because he'd want to be there and be present. And everything he said and did made me feel better about living. I remember one project that we did, Dan Gordon's Solo Club, which Shelby directed, and then Dan was here present with Shelby in rehearsal, the writer, and so we were trimming and working it along the way. But I remember it casting, and I was cast as the character Picasso, a homeless man who had owned an art gallery at one time. And Bernie was cast in the role of an angry, repressed father of a young gay man. And I just thought, when I read the casting, I thought, what are you doing? How can Bernie play this angry, evil, repressed father? There is nothing in Bernie that could do that. And he did. And to me, that was one of the best demonstrations as an actor. And he became that. And we had a fight scene where we would literally fight and wrestle. And he was so into it, and I was so into it, I thought it was a good show when I drew blood. And, but oh God, I miss Bernie. I miss Bernie. I just miss him. Some people he missed more than others. But anyway.
Well, and once we did Mausoleum Stories, and Bernie played the Japanese servant of Frank Phillips.
I think it would be called an attendant.
An attendant, yes.
Servant.
I'm sure there's a valier or something wonderful, some wonderful word that would be in the new dictionary now. But at the time, he was considered a servant. And my part was right after Bernie's, and this was extremely long. And his part was, well, they all are in Mausoleum
Marilyn, you gotta rest your
Stories.
song. Yeah.
And, you know, I had to really listen for the cues, and I would, because you never knew if Bernie was going to have any of the lines.
What?
And in real life theater, if somebody doesn't have the line, somebody covers or somebody gets their backside out there, moves the show on. And so we'd get home every night and I'd say to Jason, I don't think Bernie's ever going to get those lines. I don't. But I said, I know he will. He always shows up. He always shows up. So I am expecting him to really show up. Where's Noah? on the day of the show, because dress rehearsal, I don't think it was there either.
Never. That was the first show.
Opening night.
And I'm listening, and the thing about those long soliloquies that Marilyn would write was you can kind of move them around a little bit, so you can do the front at the end and the end at the front and the middle, but you never knew where it was going to come with Bernie. And I just remember sitting back there quaking in my boots saying, it's going to get, where is it, where is it? Oh no. And then a couple of times he just struggled and struggled and struggled, but blessed be Bernie's little heart. He always came through. He's such a fabulous actor. And then we would get home and say, he doesn't know his lines, but he can sell anything. So those are some of the memories I have of Bernie.
Yeah. Okay, why don't you do yours first?
Okay, this was sent to Noah. She just gave this to me. And it was written to her by Kevin Minich. And, oh, it was written to you, Noah, I'm sorry. And it says, this poem, like your father, is about life. Bernie was all about how he lived. And he appreciated life. He was grateful for those who were in his life. And he was ever hopeful. He definitely rallied against the machine. And he was very outspoken in his beliefs. But, like Bilbo, the character by J.R. Tolkien, he was also a nurturer and an earthly soul. He had a spark and a spirit of mischief and adventure, but he was also a bard and a poet. He was very wise, your father, and at times very stern and frank when he needed to be, but always gentle and never mean. He was always so proud of you. You do him honor. Kevin Minich.
No.
And this is Bilbo's song by J.R. Tolkien. I sit beside the fire and think of all that I have been, of meadow flowers and butterflies and summers that I've seen, of yellow leaves and gossamer and autumns that there were, with morning mist and silver sun and wind upon my hair. I sit beside the fire and think of how the world will be when winter comes without a spring that I shall ever see. For still, There are so many things that I have never seen. In every wood, in every spring, there is a different green. I sit beside the fire and think of people long ago, and people who will see a world that I shall never know. But all the while I sit and think of times there were before. I listen for returning feet and voices at the door.
Joni will edit me later on this true story. Many times we would be in a show with Bernie, and Joni and I would often be cast together as a couple or some relationship or connection. And we would be acting in rehearsal, and then Joni and I would have this exchange, and I was thinking as we were doing it, that was really good. And we finished the scene, and we'd go off to the wings. Over here, stage left, we'd be standing here. And then the next scene comes on, to the storytelling. Joni and I are here. Bernie wanders over here, and he says, "Hey, I was thinking that when you do that scene, you might think more of this or feel more of that this next time you want to do that." And then he'd wander off, and then Joni and I were left with that and feeling like we had really, had credence in that last scene. And then Joni and I had this fantasy conversation, and then Joni said, "Did you ever just want to say, hey, Bernie, why don't you just learn your lines?" Bernie always wanted to direct. So here is a poem that Noah wrote titled 61 Years. 61 years was hardly enough for a man who could make a friend out of anyone he met. A man who could never have been aware of all the ripples he created, all the lives he changes by simply showing up and being himself. 61 years of life, far too beautiful to some in a night. Hardly a saint, just a man capable of actionable change. A man who embodied mistakes and turned them into growth. And turned his experience into a space where he could meet anyone where they are and simply provide space, welcomed them as they are without judgment, without malice or hate. He welcomed every new day with gratitude and humility, singing with the birds, celebrating another sunrise while he spilled his coffee in the car. 24 years with my father will never be enough. But the gratitude I hold, having known him for even a second, is enough to make my heart burst. 24 years of getting to watch a man take a moment that didn't work and turning it into something that did. A man turned his life into something he could beam with pride at. 24 years of witnessing someone break through generational cycles and do their best not to traumatize their kids. I know he's still here, watching over me now, traveling the world and then some. I know he's here with every one of us, watching over all that hold him in their hearts. 61 years may have been too short for anyone who knows your name. I know our lives will never be the same. Well said.
Thank you so much for that beautiful reading.
Well, you wrote it.
As you can guess, if I hadn't written poetry 7 years before, 2 years ago, I don't do a lot of sharing it, especially in this format. The most I've gotten away with has been doing has been posting it in a caption on Instagram, because then at least I can tell myself that nobody's read it. I know a few of you grabbed some pieces, which I truly do appreciate, and if any of you would like to grab anything, there are still pieces on the table. Please feel free to pick one up if one calls out to you or whatever. But the piece I'm about to read is actually written by my cousin, who unfortunately could not be here tonight because they are working on graduating next month with a degree in film. They're doing incredible work, and I just had to make sure that this piece got read. They wrote it for both our grandmother and my father, their uncle, and it's called Ash of My Grandmother. Her wife takes pictures of roosting herons. The long shadows of ceremony are here, the tall triangles of death, like the 2 stable ravens in attendance. They are Bernie and Bernadine. Ash of my uncle. He, marathon runner, led her here. She who forgot song last is heard laughing in each sobbing voice. She who was pregnant for 10 years straight married a woman who now shares her with arid New Mexican fall. My aunts and uncles scatter like seed sowers, and I choose a tree with many trunks to empty my grasp. She is stuck. I am stuck. I don't want to wash my hands. My mother never cries. We held my Oma between our palms. She reassured me that we are family, and I stood there casting shade. The negative space of motherhood is here. I realize I haven't been back to New Mexico in nearly 4 years. The sky is so big here, so obvious, like trees being families or birds as free souls.
Very slowly. I've been in here in a long time. Oh, I miss Bernie so much.
Yeah.
It's still hard to believe he's not. I mean, I drive around downtown and I'm like, I look up and I fully expect to see Bernie. He was a neighbor of mine, so I saw a lot of him on the streets. I'm a crier too, Kimberly. Stand by. I chose these in the spirit of Bernie. I didn't want to get too sad. These are 2 poems by Charles Bukowski. You know, Bernie was so plugged into the culture. He had great taste in music. I would paint in here with him, you know, hours. Saturday mornings I'd meet him here. He always had a great bunch of music to listen to. He knew what was going on in the world. He cared about it. And this poem is called The Laughing Heart. Your life is your life. Don't let it be clubbed into dank submission. Be on the watch. There are ways out. There is a light somewhere. It may not be much light, but it beats the darkness. Be on the watch. The gods will offer you chances. Know them. Take them. You can't beat death, but you can beat death in life sometimes. And the more often you learn to do it, the more light there will be. Your life is your life. Know it while you have it. You are marvelous. The gods wait to delight in you. This one is called Roll the Dice. If you're going to try, go all the way. Otherwise, don't even start. If you're going to try, go all the way. This could mean losing girlfriends, wives, relatives, jobs, and maybe your mind. Go all the way. It could mean not eating for 3 or 4 days. It could mean freezing on a park bench. It could mean jail. It It could mean derision, mockery, isolation. Isolation is the gift. All the others are a test of your endurance, of how much you really want to do it. And you'll do it despite rejection and the worst odds, and it will be better than anything else you can imagine. If you're going to try, go all the way. There is no other feeling like that. You will be alone with the gods, and the nights will flame with fire. Do it. Do it, do it, do it. All the way, all the way. You will ride life straight to perfect laughter. It's the only good fight there is.
Anybody?
Oh, here?
Yeah, you can stand there and do it from there. Oh, yeah, sure.
Where to stand?
You can stand wherever you want. That's, yeah. As long as you project, that's all that matters.
Oh, I do. I definitely do. I've lost my.
Are these all not?
When I go from this place, dress the porch with garlands, as you would for a wedding day. Pull the people from their homes and dance in the streets. When death arrives like a bride of the isle, send me off in my brightest clothing, serve ice cream with rose petals to our guests. There's no reason to cry. I have waited my whole life for such a beauty to take my breath away. When I go, let it be a celebration, for I have been here. I have lived. I have won at this game called life. And I have been out of the theater for some time, so I've just seen Bernie at Poetry Night. And I know a friend of mine saying this wonderful article in the Tulsa World called Saying Goodbye to Buddy, when I had to put my almost 16-year-old lab mix down. But it was very beautiful, and at the end, it was kind of what this is all about. It said, you were one of us, and you will be missed.
Does anybody who has one of my pieces want to read at the moment?
I can. I assume, is that what this, is that you? Okay.
Wait.
Is that how their initials on the bottom?
Yes,
Okay. Okay, so this one is called Between Waking and Liminal. Between here and there, between being and not being, between waking and liminal. Here I am again. I gasp for breath. The need for oxygen incinerates, but my lungs fill with the weight of your absence. The blood in my veins turns to lead. All at once it hits me again, yet another morning. You were there before I woke, speaking, laughing. My analytical self ruined the moment. How could you be here, rather than just enjoying the gift? The bolt of reality shatters the dream, leaving scorch marks upon my pillow, and yanking me to consciousness with the reverberating truth. You'll never ask me to cut your hair again. Never pause the show we're watching a million times. There's no more bear hugs. All of that is a sharp, unfettered pain, dually existing with the gratitude of our time shared, thankful to see you in yet another dream. Seeing your smile behind these seeing your smile behind these sleeping eyelids, hearing, I love you, bear, echo through the years. remembering the way your hand clasped my shoulder when you knew things felt too heavy to carry. The absolute knowledge that sat within your eyes that despite all I had been through, I would be okay. When the pain sings in my heart, a deep inhale, then exhale, I remind myself of all the things that I mentioned above, remind myself of all the life we had and all the life I have left to live. I'll hold the pain and the gratitude, all the love and grief. I'll carry you with me, one step at a time. I will add, I knew Ernie just from poetry night, but also he would come as part of a Bartlesville Film Society that happened there at the Heritage Theater, and Bernie was there every showing. We had one night where he was the only person who came, and it was lovely. And I remember, the time that I remember most and the most impact he made on me was I volunteered one time out at the Willow Rock Run. And he finished, and then he circled back and was cheering for people and, running with people and all kinds of things. And so that was that was the impact and the thing that I saw coming from Bernie. So I'm glad to remember those good things.
Yeah.
So, if I haven't met you, my name's Christine and I'm Bernie's sister. And I've known Bernie from living in my house when I was a kid. Like, Bernie coming to visit me every year was like one of the highlights of my summer, and we would always find some adventures to go on. And one of the things I love most about Bernie was that anything I suggested, he would say yes. It didn't matter what it was. And I remember it was the second time we climbed a 14er, which means the peak is over 14,000 feet, and we're at the top, and I realized he's actually terrified of heights. But he went up that mountain with me anyway, and when we got to the top and I said I was going to walk across the saddle, he said, well, I'm just going to stay right here on this rock. All right, but I love that you came here, and that was the kind of person he was. He would just always be up for an adventure. And
You live in Las Vegas, New Mexico?
I live in Colorado.
Colorado.
Yes.
Now, what was the connection with Las Vegas, New Mexico?
My mom lived there
Okay.
in Las Vegas, yeah.
Yeah.
So, so that was something I really loved about Bernie, and it's something I've tried to emulate since he's gone, because it's something I want to be like. I want to be like my brother that way. So, I have a couple of poems to read. The first one was actually written by my brother Paul, sometimes known as Sandy, back in 1989, and it's titled Bartlesville. I have 3 brothers in Oklahoma. Bernie just called from there. My tiredness is not a fog, but still the humidity. Bernie makes me laugh completely, and so I miss him. He's even funnier than me. He knew that's lovely. So, ironically, this is the 33rd anniversary of Paul's death. He died on this day in 1990. So, and thanks for letting me be a part of this. This is really amazing that you guys did this, and lovely, and I'm glad I got to come and be a part of it. Thank you for coming. So, last time I was here was when Bernie died. And after he died, I was here for a little while, and then I just had to go. It was so cold, and I couldn't stay anymore. And I decided I needed to go to somewhere where I felt like Bernie would want to be, and that was Tucson. Bernie loved Tucson. Mm-hmm. So I drove from here to Tucson, and I spent some time there. And I wrote some things down there that I put into a poem. And this poem is called Desert Dreams. He was yearning for the desert, 1,000 miles from a saguaro. This is the thing about the desert. It scours you out. With sun and heat, wind and sand, sand abrades smooth the jagged stalactites of grief, so you won't need to stuff it down with food or drink, smoke, shoot it down, or even rage it down. The desert gifts you with object lessons all around about adaptation. If you are determined to survive, you must adapt to hostile conditions. Continuously adapt, because conditions change. This landscape is adapted to take what it can from you. Inattention may leave you with a bite or a sting, or wearing the spines of another living thing. It will steal the water from your body. But for all of those harsh threats and hard points, the desert is full of life. A nest made of crucifix thorns and the arms of a cactus. What a tough bird, to raise its babies on a bed of nails in preparation for a harsh world. Beautiful. Of course you won't get there. And the other poem I wrote is very short. Also for Bernie. You were filled with a ridiculous dose of positivity. It was even mostly genuine. When you left, you took all of the warmth and sunshine with you. Coldest it's been in decades. I keep feeling like it feels weird that I keep coming up here, but then I also don't. I cope with humor, if you can't tell, so I have to come in with an awkward intro every time, or else I can't talk. But I know a few pieces. I'm trying to figure out. So this next one is called Equivalent Exchange or something like that. Nobody picked that up, right? I have my own stack with everything in it. Okay. Equivalent Exchange or something like that. Another day one of the rest of my life. Another attempt at surviving something beyond just existing. I don't want to just survive. I don't want to just wither away and waste. Algorithms designed to keep our attention, one thumb scrolling, endless, nameless, baseless, numbing. I feel as though I've slept for months, for years. I keep saying I want something new and I haven't been able to commit to anything that's come my way. I keep saying I'm ready to see what's next, but keep retreating to the concrete walls of my home, cradling ashes of a life that no longer exists, a life that can never exist again. The Elric brothers, a cautionary tale. I know better than to try and resuscitate. I know I'd lose an arm and a leg, or maybe even more. I feel at odds with myself. I want to live my life, yet with every new sunrise, I feel more entrenched in a despair that leaves me gutted on the floor. It's not fair. I finally reached wanting to live for the first time in my life, and you were ripped away from me. I finally put aside thoughts of oblivion, only to face an abyss I never thought I would. At least I didn't think it was possible at 24. I wrote this one sometime last year in 2022, and if it helps you not feel any better, and one day at a time, keep on trucking. And this is something I want tonight to be more celebratory than grief, but with love comes the pain, so that's why we have 1,000 boxes of tissues everywhere. And I don't want to just leave you with that. Did anyone pick up I'm Alive in Spite of Me? Perfect, cool.
Even if they had, you should read it, Noah.
Thank you, Patrick. No, you don't get to read it.
Oh, too bad.
Okay. This is titled I'm Alive in Spite of Me, which is directly inspired by, if you don't know me, Hayley Williams. She's the lead singer of Paramore, and a lot of her music has gotten me through most of my life. And this song in particular is called Watch Me Bloom, and this poem is inspired by it.
I left a piece of me with you. I remember the way my hands trembled, clinging to the life I knew. The one where you'd always be there, watching with love as I try. To stumble and stride, watch me get it wrong and swallow my pride. Watch as I let go of the very things that once saved my life. Watch as I fuck up and I have no idea what's next. I suppose I only know now what solid ground feels like. Something I thought I once knew, but I don't recall it being so scorching. The way it burns up those who dare to walk it, incinerating those who don't. Indiscriminate. If it hurts all around, why move at all? If nothing matters, doesn't it all? Watch as I come home to myself and find more parts of myself so long unseen. Watch as I fall in love with life as the world falls apart. The heat in the pit engulfs. The way it has flooded and risen, oozed and hissed, scorching my veins on the way out, scorching all it touches. When will I finally take the next step? You can't rush your healing. A watched pot never boils. I can feel their eyes on me, waiting for me to slip, waiting for me to fall when I haven't gotten off the ground. I left a piece of me with you the morning the world froze. Watch as I decide to take care of tomorrow. Watch as I keep all of these promises that I made to him. Watch me bloom in all that.
Anybody?
Yeah, I will.
Okay.
You knew that was
This is
going to
kind of how we do this, we just, you know.
Really quick. I was going to say
So, my name is Michelle Larkin. I'm from Dewey. Bernie has been in my life since I was 21. I am now going to be 60 this year, so I had him a good long time. He was always there to do stuff with us. He made sure that when we moved to the new house after the flood, I was pregnant and had nothing to cook on. He made sure I had something to cook on. We played volleyball together. We didn't do the play stuff together, but I went to see him do plays. He dated my cousin for a minute. That was fun. She cried when he found out he passed. He was a good man, and we adore him. One of the pictures over there, he was at the drag queen bingo, and there's a picture over there of my drag queen son-in-law and Bernie that I will be taking. Thank you, Noah. And I thank Josie for that night and posing with Bernie and making him smile so big. So I don't want to take up all the time because there's a million stories. However, one of the last times I did see Bernie, my daughter and I went to the BOK to see Roger Waters lesson them. And guess who comes down the street? Bernie and Steve Dick. Oh, all them boys, the stories I could tell you about all them boys. So Bernie's got a big smile to see me and Kelsey. He's known her all his life. And I said, Bernie, he goes, no, I can't cut. I won't do it. I didn't ask you to, Bernie, but thanks anyway for offering. So, as I'm sitting here thinking, I missed the memo of printing a poem. I am not a poet. I write spells, not poetry. That would be, yeah, Bernie wouldn't mind. Anyway, I'm sitting there thinking, Bernie, what do you want me to say? I feel I need to say something because you meant so much to me and my family. And I very clearly heard him say, us and them. So for Bernie, I pulled up the lyrics to us and them. Okay. Us and them, and after all, we're only ordinary men. Me and you, God only knows, it's not what we choose to do. Forward he cried, from the near and from the front rank died. The general sat and the lines on the map moved from side to side. Black and blue, and who knows which is which and who is who. Up and down, and in the end, it's only round and round and round. Haven't you heard? It's a battle of words. The poster bared the cry. Listen, son, said the man with the gun. There's room for you inside. They're not going to kill you. So like if you give them a quick, short, sharp shock, they won't do it again. Dig it? I mean, he got off lightly because I would have given him a thrashing. I only hit him once. It was only a difference of right and wrong in it. But really, I mean, good manners don't cost nothing, do they, eh? Down and out, it couldn't be helped. But there's a lot of it about. With, without, and who'll deny, it's what the fighting is all about. Out of the way, it's a busy day. I've got things on my mind. For what of the price of tea and a slice of bread, the old man died. So, thank you for giving me that moment. I love you. I'll always be here for you. And I sure did love your dad.
I'm Catherine. I've known Noah, I don't even know how long. Like, I don't know. We met as kids. We were probably like 6 or 7, a really long time. And I was lucky enough to get to see Bernie from a kid's perspective as a parent, which was really cool. I'm not a crier, but I also am, so we'll see. What everybody has said, he was so cool as a dad. He was like the coolest ever. And like, perfect parents don't exist, but he really tried. And it's really hard. So, if you don't know me, I'm not a poetry person at all. No one knows that about me. I don't like poetry. But I asked them if there was anything they wanted to make sure got read, but they didn't want to read, and that I could read that. So this is by Noah. It's called Arthritic at 26, and it's long, so bear with me. Arthritic at 26. I showed signs long before, resistant to insulin and allergic to things I love. My lungs are weak and trying to heal. Was I really so close to death? My body's freaking out, alerting me now that the threat passed by the skin of my teeth. The heartbeat of silent killers still thrums in my ears. My body, which has gotten me through all I've ever seen, can only now be understood with the help of Western medicine and a desire for change, a knowing that there's something more. I can finally understand what it's saying, what it's asking for, what it's crying out for, yet I still struggle to care for it the way it needs. Red alert, my nervous system is in chaos, wreaking havoc inside and out, trying to be heard, breaking to be understood, dying to be cared for in the way it deserves. Before the move, I caught myself wondering if I was dying the slowest death. Contemplated it and wrote it off. Doesn't everybody naturally? I was unable to live in a home, unable to breathe the air, migraines, fatigue, no executive function, fighting depression and grief, all while telling myself I was fine. No wonder. No wonder my father didn't get better. No wonder I never really dealt with the loss. No wonder I've been sick as long as I can remember and hardly could get up and out of the house. No wonder my body is throwing a righteous tantrum. I feel like such a hypocrite, believing I love myself and have healed old wounds when I can't even brush my teeth. Believing I'm getting better while still waiting on outside forces to save me. Anyone but me. How could I be the one? How could I be strong enough to handle it all? How can I be fearless enough and believe that taking care of myself is the kindest act? How can I convince the wounded 13-year-old me that we are worth fighting for? In a world where he's gone. In a world we don't belong. In a world actively fighting against us. How can I tell all the younger versions of me that we need to get up and take another step forward, that we are worth menial, repetitive care tasks, worth working towards the things we want instead of giving our all to someone else? Most of my life, I wanted to check out early. I couldn't stand being alive. Most of my life, I believed I wouldn't make it to my 20s. I didn't find the value in myself. I only stayed for others. I only stayed to cater to their needs. Now that I finally want to live, old habits are dying hard. As heartbreak after heartbreak continues to follow, old coping mechanisms chain my hands to my phone and press my eyes against the screen. The days pass by my window, and I yearn for change, yearn for the me I can envision. If only I change this But the ways I used to cope, though they no longer serve who I want to become, are threatened and won't go down without a fight. I understand that I can never turn back the clock. I understand what it once was no longer exists. Hell, in 2020 I was bugged by everyone's desires to go back to normal because I knew that world no longer fit into the ever-changing landscape, brushstroke after brushstroke, and soon the painting is unrecognizable. This world is unrecognizable. My life is too. Just when I think I understand how someone fits, disruption and true colors show. I'm so sick of getting my heart broken by myself and everyone I know. I just want to live in a world where I'm not afraid to go after what I want, change the way I want, exist the way I want. So now I'll tend to what needs tending. Take it one breath at a time. Help myself and my cat get better. Dust myself off and take living this life back into my own hands. I'll do it scared.
Yeah, I'm another person that remembers Bernie very, very well. I guess what I'm thinking is it was like a decade ago at least. And I knew your dad for like decades in the little church, the Disciples of Christian Church. You know, he went there, I went there, we got to know each other that way. And I'm remembering it's a memory. It's a memory that I guess I'll always have, where I was at the Phillips gas station, and it was downtown, and it's no longer there. And it was a cold winter day, and it was snowing, and I was freezing, and I was out, putting gas in my car. And he was out there too. And I know you were talking about wintertime and cold, and it brought back this memory of Bernie was there and I was there, and we were putting gas in our cars. And saying, "Hi, Linda," and "Hi, Bernie, how are you? It's freezing out here. We gotta go home. It's just cold." And I think I will always have that as a memory. And then every once in a while I would see him around town. That sort of thing. He's a part of Rolesville. And with all of these people here, your father will always be here. He's not gone. You might not see him physically, but he's alive and he's well. And his spirit is with everyone that is in him. So you always have a home here. Always do. I don't care if you wander, I don't care if you go the globe. You can return, this will be home for you. So anyway, I've got this, and I guess, maybe it's a part that he played it's the Sam's monologue from J.R. Tolkien.
From Lord of the Rings, yeah. It's,
Yeah, okay.
not a part he played, but it's just a monologue that I had written in chalk in our apartment on a chalk sticky paper thing on the closet door. And I'd written it around high school graduation because I was kind of freaking out about my role changing as an 18-year-old. And whenever I moved back in 2021, 7 years, mind you, it was still up there, and he hadn't touched it at all because he had apparently walked by it frequently. And
it was a part of you.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I'm going to read it. So it's okay. It says, by all rights, Sam's monologue in Lot R by J.R.R. Tolkien, Lord of the Rings. It's all wrong. By rights, we shouldn't even be here, but we are. It's like in the great stories, Mr. Frodo, the ones that really mattered, full of darkness and danger they were, and sometimes you didn't want to know the end, because how could the end be happy? How could the world go back to the way it was when so much bad happened? But in the end, it's only a passing thing. This shadow, even darkness is past. A new day will come. And when the sun shines, it will shine out the clearer. Those were the stories that stayed with you. That meant something. Even if you were too small to understand why. But I think, Mr. Frodo, I do understand. I know now. Folk in those stories had lots of chances of turning back, only they didn't. Because they were holding on to something. That there's something good in this world, Mr. Frodo, and it's worth fighting for. And that's the monologue.
Are you gonna read, Pepper? So are you gonna read?
Yeah.
I have one, just to lighten things up a little bit, comic relief. Here we go, sorry. Bernie was really special to me, and there's not a lot of words that can describe him, because everything I thought through in my mind, preparing to come up here and stuff like that, it just seems like it's never enough to describe Bernie, because he was just everything, and there's like this emptiness inside everybody because Bernie's gone. But hopefully this line picks up now. This is called Spring. I inhaled the air. It smelled like spring. I picked a flower. It smelled like spring. I took a walk in the blooming woods. It smelled like spring. I sipped my morning tea. It tasted like spring. I ate a croissant. It tasted like spring. I took a deep breath. It tasted like spring. I picked up a flower. It smelled like spring. I skimmed my hand across the meadow. It felt like spring. I colored my Easter eggs. They felt like spring. I walked through the park. It sounded like spring. The bees buzzed in my ear. It sounded like spring. The birds chirped in the trees. It sounded like spring. I looked at the big city. It looked like spring. I watched the people at the farmer's market. It looked like spring. I watched the tulips sprout from the ground. It is spring.
Evangeline, our comic relief is my niece.
By the way, Evangeline just told me she wrote that poem. I didn't know that.
What?
watching her parents, and they were looking on with so much pride. It was so cute.
We don't
I never.
care. We don't care. We don't know what she does.
Just the way we're looking.
Whenever she's performing, I'm not looking at them. I'm her voice teacher. So it was the first time I watched them and Jay. Oh my gosh, so much pride. But that is the beauty of parenthood and being a kiddo. And Noah, I don't know you, but your writing is so beautiful.
Yes.
Yes. I feel like I relate a lot to you. And I feel like everybody in this room wishes they had as much courage as you have. The authenticity is just being honest. And most of us in here can't do that as well as you can. And that's really all you need in life. So, like Linda said, this is home. And it was home for me. I went and traveled and did stuff, and I'm glad I did it, but there's nothing like home. And this last time I came back, I decided to stay, so no pressure. But it might actually sink its teeth into you at some point. Okay, so this is by Noah, and this is called Delineate. I struggle to delineate the line between. To overshare or not share at all. Isn't that the question? All or nothing brings me to my knees. At one point, it helped me survive. At one point, it was all I could be. I'm stuck. Stuck in analysis paralysis. No one ever tells you inaction is the thief of a life lived. Well, maybe they do, but sometimes we don't learn that lesson until well after total body necrosis. What's the difference between private and secret? How can I strike a chord that resonates when I can hardly get out of bed? How can I allow myself to get close when all I can see is a ventilator? And no last words. All I can hear, the beeping of a monitor. I live decades ahead and fear your loss before I've even met you. I know I need to be here now, but my body has never felt like home. I play love songs on repeat, hoping and pining for something to be found, hoping I can see myself through the same lens. The fantasy is always sweeter before the sun rises. If I could be half of what you think of me, maybe I'd make this space home. Maybe I wouldn't be so caught in the middle, stuck feeling like a hypocrite, until I could muster up enough courage to say what I need to say. Tell me how to move on, how to keep going, putting one day behind the other. How do I move on when I can't even get out of bed? How do I move on? I just want you to know, when you said you don't write poetry, you write spells.
Yes.
There's a thin line between spells and poetry, because I think words are magic.
Yes.
So, when you said that, I'm going to read this. This is not me. This is called The Thing Is by Ellen Bass. The thing is to love life. To love it even when you have no stomach for it. And everything you've held dear
crumbles like burnt paper in your hands, your throat filled with the silt of it. When grief sits with you, its tropical heat thickening the air, heavy as water, more fit for gills than lungs. When grief weighs you down like your own flesh, only more of it, an obesity of grief, you think, how can a body withstand this? Then you hold life like a face between your palms. A plain face, no charming smile, no violet eyes, and you say, yes, I will take you. I will love you again. So I don't think there's a right way to grieve. And if people want to celebrate, make this a celebration of life, that's awesome because that's so Bernie. But it's okay to still be sad and maybe even angry about how things happen. This poem, I think I read the first time I met Bernie, and it's called Separation by W.S. Merwin, who's my favorite poet. And I think it's fitting. Your absence has gone through me like thread through a needle. Everything I do is stitched with color. Super short. Okay, and then I have one that Noah wanted read. Called Proof of Life. But if anyone else wants to read, I can go blow my nose. No? Yes? Okay, Proof of Life. I got another disbursement today. Another piece of paper filled with numbers, as if they're supposed to adequately replace you, as if any number ever could. Of course, it likely arrived sooner, but since I couldn't bring myself to celebrate the end of a whole year without you, this paper, flagrant in its ambitions, found itself in my hands to welcome 2023. To remind me that no matter how many calendars I go through, no matter how many months pass around me, there is no possibility of you walking through the door, announcing your return. Sorry, I gotta blow my nose. I'll go again. No matter how many months pass around me, there is no possibility of you walking through the door, announcing your return. No waking up to the static of NPR blaring the hourly trumpet. No you. Of course you're here in spirit. Of course you're nudging me all you can with your ethereal might to get me to roll out of bed, drink some water, and finally fight for a world that I never imagined, lacking such a central figure of my life. Fight for myself the way you did the moment I drew my first ragged breath. It feels impossible. It feels wrong. 2023 is here and you're gone. I turned 27 a month after the anniversary of you leaving. What an ornate word to mark a grotesque mistake. What are the numbers supposed to make up for? The gross mishandling of such a crucial disease. Lack of caring killed you. How could this possibly be proof of a life?
That's beautiful.
And I had one more that I wrote in 2020 called Suki. The first time the world broke me, I was 38. Despite all the tragedies and my lifelong dance with mortality, the world never felt cold or heartless. I trusted that deep down inside, most people were kind. I viewed the world with Mr. Rogers' eyes. It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood. Every day. Everybody was my neighbor. To go through life for 38 years and never doubt, that was a gift. The world is still breaking me. Every day I wake up in fragments. I form them into the basic shape of who I was. I am repaired haphazardly and with indelible traces of destruction.
The Japanese know there is beauty in the mending of cracks, not trying to disguise the damage, not trying to pretend it never happened, instead highlighting the breakage with golden patchwork. I am kintsugi, flawed, held together by pieces of gold, still functional, and somehow more beautiful. I'll let somebody else take the stage and go to the bathroom real quick.
I do believe that any of the ones that I have left, for the most part, are in somebody else's hands.
Fine, Noah. Take the
Is that it? You was gonna say, is that a hint? Is that?
Excuse me. Hello, everyone. I am Bertie's stepdaughter, Robin. I've known Noah since they were born. I was under the bed crying. It's hard for me to come up with something to say about Bernie that will even make sense as a story. He was always in my life. I only have maybe 3 memories about him before I met him when I was 4. You weren't there. You don't know. But there are distinct moments of like us sitting around the coffee table having Thanksgiving dinner in his apartment. Him trying to get me to take that box of cups that was still there when we moved everything out. He was always so helpful. And of all the people that came and went through our lives with our mother, Bernie was the only one who stayed in mine. And so this poem Noah wrote very recently after having to leave that apartment, called Molded Linoleum. Linoleum aisles I spend too much time in. The distinct scent of greasy potatoes fill the air, like all the gas stations we frequent when all we had was visitation. I don't touch the case, of course, but I seek out stations that take me back to those fluorescent spaces. We'd pick up some snacks I'd always fidget with while we walked along the Pensacola Dam. Grand Lake, Ulaga, Neosho, any body of water you'd go out of your way to find. At 7, I couldn't possibly understand why the routines were what they were. At 27, hindsight couldn't be clearer. I wish I simply enjoyed our time, never let her sway where I stood. But how could I possibly blame that child for expecting their parents to lead them through the world, trusting that they couldn't be led astray, so long as they listened to their mother? Anger weighed me down at 8, and I didn't know how to handle it. I was trained to feel guilt as a knee-jerk anytime those emotions rose. Those feelings didn't serve my mother, hand and foot. They didn't cater, nor did they take care of her. Something about what we had threatened her. Whatever she was hell-bent on hiding, praised about shifting the blame. Whatever happened to me that she never wanted anyone to know, she blamed it on you. And tried to turn me from you, so at 8, that angry, wild being, that depressed and resentful child was shown time and time and time again what real, healthy, unconditional love looks like. Over the years, therapy included, but not limited, the foundation was mended, one crack at a time. Now I seek out bodies of water innately. The view brings tears to my eyes. Birds take off around me, and the sun playfully bounces its rays across the waters. A symphony of water moving, rushing, crashing. I've avoided these places out subconsciously, as I've avoided a lot that reminds me of you. But when I lower my defenses, finally cave, and sit with the flow of such powerful energy, I feel you with me, holding my hand. I see you pointing out a family of foxes, and hear you laughing quietly when I trip in the sand. I'm done hiding from the pain, pretending I've been feeling it, only processing what I need to get by.
I had to say goodbye to the space we lived in. It nearly killed me, both saying farewell and continuing to live there. I held on so tightly. I wanted so badly to keep that place as long as I possibly could. But I'm humble enough to recognize it stopped helping me heal and started tearing me down. I sat catatonic, hardly moving, overwhelmed, dissociative, and refusing to handle, refusing to define what this reality means to me. I had to let go of all the ways I had expected things to pan out. Let go of the idea that I could control how it all went. I had to let go of the space before I molded over, and every muscle petrified, turned to stone within a concrete tomb of the past. As much as you would never have wanted that, neither did I. I want a life lived, experienced, and fulfilled. Mistakes made, love embraced, pain felt, and wonder beyond my imagination. I'm not here to stay stuck in my past, no matter the amount of vines I must cut that slithered in and tangled about my limbs, keeping me down in the depths, keeping my focus on what was and never could be. Now I simply greet the sun and breathe. Breathe life into my lungs. Oxygen and passion, synergetic. As I live the life we have wanted for me. Thank you for this life. Thank you for protecting me as best you could. Thank you for being my strongest warrior until I finally learned to love myself the way you have since I was born.
I believe I have two more out there. But of course, if anybody has any poetry that they'd like to read, whether it's Mary Oliver or something he wrote.
Has anybody read the Auden's Funeral Blues yet?
No.
I'll read it. Can I just stand here?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. There's a hammer right behind you, just so you know.
Oh.
Hello.
Please turn around.
Oh, Chris, how are you? I'm kind of back like this. So I'm going to take a liberty with this and substitute the first person with third person. We, us, the omniscient, I guess. Some of you may be familiar with this because it appeared in a famous film. Funeral Blues by W.H. Auden. Stop all the clocks, cut off the telephone, prevent the dog from barking with a juicy bone, silence the pianos and with muffled drum, bring out the coffin, let the mourners come. Let aeroplanes circle moaning overhead, scribbling on the sky the message, he is dead. Put crape bows round the white necks of the public doves. Let the traffic policemen wear black cotton gloves. He was our north, our south, our east and west, our working weeks and our Sunday rest, our noon, our midnight, our talk, our song. We thought that love would last forever. We were wrong. The stars are not wanted now. Put out every one. Pack up the moon and dismantle the sun. Pour away the ocean and sweep up the wood, for nothing now can ever come to any good. Cheery guy, huh?
Sydney, do you want to read anything on the read?
You should read from that.
I haven't read any of it. I don't know what
I'll pick one for you.
but you're familiar with it.
Yeah, I'll pick one.
Hi, I'm Jeff Woodruff. I don't think I ever really met Bernie. I think I may have one big memory of just quickly going to the apartment in high school for you to get something. I think it was that. But I've known Noah since senior year of high school. That's when we got to really know each other. I obviously have out of classes with him before that, and even though I kept myself cold and distant from people on purpose, Noah was always kind and polite to me, and I always appreciated that. But yeah, I never got to meet Bernie, but I mean, the way everyone talks about him and how he was, I mean, Noah reflects that very well. And it influences me to want to be better. So I think that kind of just sums up the kind of guy he was. So this is Noah's poem called Pick Up the Pain. The last 2 years have been surreal, packed with heartache and joy, rage and serenity, ferocious laughter and insurmountable grief, beautiful landscapes and gut-wrenching global news. The miles I put between myself and that moment, the moment he passed, press in on me, when I've stopped in one place for too long. I've ran so far from the pain, advising others frequently to confront it, but never following my advice. All this running only led me back to that moment, that room. Whether I ran for 5 days or 50, 2 years or 20, he's awaiting. For me to face the pain, face the truth, and face myself, face this new reality, rather than storing it on the furthest shelf. I'm here tonight to pick it up, wipe away the accumulation, dust off overshadowed needs in a life ignored, wipe away the desperation for things to go back to the way they were. He's been waiting for this moment, just off stage in the wings, for me to break away and crack open this cocoon I've created. He's been waiting, pride swelling in his chest and that sparkle in his eye. He's been waiting for me to wake up and choose to live. Change has been knocking on my door for quite some time, asking me to spare a cup of whatever I'm willing to let go of. He has only ever wanted the best for me, fought for me when no one else would, not even myself, advocated for my well-being in a country that's trying to eradicate me and anyone like me. He wants me to be happy. He wants me to see what he saw in me. First time he held me, 6 weeks early, lungs weak and fighting for life. Morbid irony given how he passed. He wants me to follow my heart. One step at a time, I'll embrace dichotomous truth. Trust and worry come hand in hand. Healing and pain are one and the same. I feel like I have to learn this every day, remind myself of all these things. Why is it so easy to forget? For the first time in my life, for myself and for no one else, I'll wake up tomorrow and start all over again.
I'm Ben. Just Ben. I'm a sucker for chronology, so when I saw this poem was dated today, I thought, well, then I have to go last. Of course, anyone can. But, I knew I would have to at least outlast Jeff, so that was
Mine was
mission accomplished. Noah wrote this today, which, considering everything we've heard, already makes it really powerful. Just wait till you hear it. It's called I See You in the Mirror. I still see your smile. The edges of your eyes would crinkle. I hear your laugh in mine. I worried all my life about things that didn't matter. How how much I was like another. I'm grateful to see the way my fingers are just short of slender, rounded and ready to put my hands to work. The old man noises I make with every stretch, random movie quotes, believing in a world that could be left better than when I found it. All of these things I've come to recognize as reflections of you. Your life imprinted on mine, echoing through. You who broke cycles of pain. You who chose to wake up every day and leave this life happy with your time spent here. My heart aches for all the joy I have and have yet to experience. I can only hope my arms are as widely opened as yours always were to greet me. I promised you I would figure out how to love myself as much as you loved me. I promised I would take care of me the way you did. I promised I would fight for myself like no other but you has. What I've learned, though, is that those promises are a continual practice of self-awareness and deliberate intention, a continual choice to be made day after day. I finally see the conviction it took to commit to the person you became. Funny how after all this time, I'm still learning lessons from you. I will live this life for me, knowing in my soul, my bones, my grit, you are on this journey with me, proud of every new day. The end.
I didn't write it, Hogan did. But it's what Bilbo says when he sees his home again in chapter 19 of The Hobbit. Roads go ever, ever on, over rock and under tree, by caves where never sun has shone, by streams that never find the sea, over snow by winter sown, and through the merry flowers of June, over grass and over stone, and under mountains in the moon. Roads go ever, ever on, under cloud and under star, yet feet that wandering have gone, turn at last, home far. Eyes that fire and sword have seen, and horror in the halls of stone, look at last on meadows green, and trees and hills they long have known.
Well, I picked out a couple for today, and then kind of set them aside, but found a different one. And this is Henry Wordsworth Longfellow, and it's called The Builders. All are architects of fate, working in these walls of time. Some with massive deeds and great, some with ornaments of rhyme. Nothing useless is, or low, each thing in its place is best. And what seems but idle show strengthens and supports the rest. For the structure that we raise, time is with materials filled. Our todays and yesterdays are the blocks with which we build. Truly shape and fashion these, leave no yawning gaps between. Think not, because no man sees, such things will remain unseen. In the elder days of art, builders wrought with greatest care, each minute an unseen part, for the gods see everywhere. Let us do our work as well, both the unseen and the seen. Make the house where gods may dwell, beautiful, entire and clean. Else our lives are incomplete, standing in these walls of time, broken stairways where the feet stumble as they seek to climb. Build today, then, strong and sure, with a firm and ample base, and ascending and secure, shall tomorrow find its place. Thus alone can we attain to those turrets where the eye sees the world as one vast plain and one boundless reach of sky.
Does anybody else have something they'd like to share? Any, like it can be a poem, it can be a memory.
I just wanted people to know that you meant so much to me after I lost my sister. And we were cleaning out her house. My sister loved everyone. And we went to school together, and I have a sister a couple of years older than her. So she was her too. And I was Paul. And he was there. My sister had become a hoarder. She was working. She got her master's degree in psychology. She had fought drug addiction and alcoholism most of her life. And she lost a son to suicide. And she threw herself into the suicide awareness program and really built it up. She had people coming from all over. There wasn't anything Bernie wouldn't do to help her. And she became a hoarder because she wasn't accepted into the doctorate program. There were only 3 slots. She was sure she was going to get it. And then they took all the money that she had raised and put it towards the opioid crisis in Washington County. And she'd raised that money. She worked hard for years to build that up. And I think he was the shoulder she cried on when they took the money, they split the money. She lost a lot of the funding for suicide awareness. And she went off the rails. And when he found out she took her own life, he was there for her. And then, when we were clearing out the house, even though he had a bad back, he showed up every day, for at least a couple of hours. There was the largest dumpster the city could get. We pulled that, I mean, I don't know how many tons it held. We filled it. And someone had donated it. And he would go in there and open the door and push stuff back so we could get more in it. And he was there, and when the dumpster was full, that had been donated and was taken away, all the helpers went. They never showed up again. Bertie was there. Every day my car was there. And I was hauling more stuff off. It was just like, I'd go at odd hours. And I'd turn around and he'd be there. We didn't talk much. He'd say, I'm just here to help. And he was was just there for me. This was in 2019. And there were times that I couldn't even go in the house to work because this was how I was breathing. And he would show up and he'd just sit on the porch steps with me. He wouldn't say anything. He'd just sit with me. He'd come and sit. And that's what he means to me. He was there for me when I needed him. And I needed this so much. I didn't know how much I needed this tonight. I want to thank you. And your writing is beautiful. I don't even. I just wanted to love you.
As he started talking, I realized that I knew who you were talking about because I met your sister. And she made a huge impact on my life because at a time when I was not well, he introduced me to her. And her work in suicide prevention saved my life and encouraged me to try to help others. And I'm so glad that you're here, so thank you.
And that's what I found out he had died. I just couldn't believe it. And we go back to water, walking at night. This is crazy. I just started to I did my first swimming march.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
A lot of healing happening in this room tonight.
I'm going to stay down here because I can't get up right now. All of the poems that I printed have been shared, which thank you so much for being a part of this with me. Thank you so much for being here. And I don't necessarily, the night's not over. We can share memories, we can share stories, we can chat, we can eat some of the snacks that were brought.
Eat some of the snacks.
But I just want to thank you all for being a part of this journey and being here because, I mean, if you couldn't tell, the recurring theme throughout all of my work is that he moved the world to me, and I'm here because of him, and in all of the ways that you could possibly mean that phrase. I am here because of him. And I, just this year, very recently, had to move out of the apartment that I'd grown up in with him because I found black mold. And I have no idea how long that had been there. But I know that every day that I had been staying there, choosing to stay despite the stuffy nose and despite the fatigue, I could feel him pushing for me to go on a walk. Besides the fact that it's good for me, I could feel him just, I don't know how else to say it, but I could feel him get jittery whenever I stayed at home because I couldn't breathe as well. And I could feel him get jittery when I lock myself away and isolate and not talk to any of my family for months on end. Because that wasn't the life he wanted for me. And moving out of that apartment was one of the hardest things that I've done, partly because when I moved into it, I moved on top of at least 30 years of his life. If you didn't help me move, or you've never visited, the man was so sentimental, as I'm sure you can imagine, that he kept everything. He kept everything. He had a receipt from 1982. He had family cards and correspondence that either happened to fall into his lap or were actually addressed to him. He had boxes on boxes of photos that I still have yet to even fully go through. And I can say without a doubt, without a shadow of a doubt, without anything possibly arguing the statement that he loved every single one of you. And even if you didn't know him personally, he loved you because that's just the way he was. And it's been a really hard time. But I know that the community he built around him includes this room and is also here, goes well beyond this room. I've had people that I've met in California that knew him. And I know that that community, as much as they're here for me, they're here for you. And just thank you. Thank you for being here. He loves you. And I love you.
Did you go up?
We're not doing one at once. We're going to wait. Thanks. That's like a thing. That's all the schedule. So if you just
I wouldn't be able to say it.
And I'm like, what's that? What is that? Like, how much worse is that?
We'll get a video.
So much. I can't control your writing is gorgeous. That's what I like.
Funny enough, like everybody except for how we look.
It was fake.
Did you read it? That was like the last time I ever read it.
Well, and I'm right in high school.
Yeah.